Hi guys, John here. This video today is going to be an update video on my Aqua Reef 395. I have to get used to saying that because I'm so used to saying my Aqua One Mini Reef 120, but that's not the case. I'd just like to say that this past week of fish keeping has been one of the most hardest weeks that I've ever had to deal with, and that's for two reasons. I lost some fish and stuff just wasn't going right, and that can cause many people to give up or almost not want to deal with their tank anymore. But with me, that's not the case. It only makes me want to fix what happened and do it better to make sure nothing would happen again. A couple of things have changed livestock wise, and if you're used to seeing my tank, you've probably already spotted them. You've noticed that my two black and white clowns are no longer, and I have a blue tang. Now I'll start off by saying the three fish that died, I ended up losing my two black and white clownfish and my orange shoulder tang, which was one of my favorite fish in the tank. Now there were a couple of reasons for this. I'll start off by telling you a reason that was out of my control, and that was my orange shoulder tang. He ended up dying due to an unknown reason, or for an unknown purpose, due to the fact that he had ripped out his scalpel. Now for people that don't know, tangs, which are like the dory fish and a yellow tang and a purple tang, they have something on the side of their tail, or the middle of the base of their tail. Basically it's a scalpel. They're also known as surgeon fish, and that's what gives them that name. Now, with that scalpel, it's almost always, in a way, facing outwards, so when they can swim past another fish and almost slice them. Now, adding the fish to the new tank, to my knowledge, everything was going great, but there was a little bit of aggression, especially with my orange shoulder tang and that mimic tang, which you saw swimming at the back. This little guy. Now, I wasn't too worried about that, and everything seemed to be going fine, other than that small amount of aggression. In saying that, I wasn't too worried, everything was good. One morning I got up, noticed that my orange shoulder tang wasn't looking its best. So I had a look at him and noticed that his scalpel was actually ripped out. Now, there was a couple of things that came to mind when I saw that it has been ripped out. I thought, okay, I haven't touched it, I haven't done anything to the fish, I made sure everything was fine when I was transferring them, so it's a new problem. So I saw him, and it did look like he must have tried to show some aggression towards that tang and got it caught on a rock. Now, that usually shouldn't be too much of an issue. They'll almost always fall off and be fine, but this wasn't the case. This time, unfortunately, the stress was too much for him and he ended up dying. Now, by all means, don't worry if your fish gets that. It's not something to be necessarily worried about, but I do believe, because I had moved them into the new tank, they were under general stress, and I guess that got the better of him. Now, another issue got my black and white clownfish. This issue is something that people see quite often, and some people may go through their whole reef tank years and years without ever seeing a sign of it. Now, it's not white spot, but it's a type of parasite / fungal infection. It's called Brooklynella. Now, I haven't necessarily narrowed it down to that, but the symptoms of what my fish got is very similar to the symptoms of Brooklynella. All this is that your clownfish, or my clownfish in particular, got wounds on the side of their body and almost like a cloudy pastiness. And within a couple of hours, I noticed that their skin was almost peeling off. Now, this is bad for two reasons. One, if you do have any parasites in the tank, or any more parasites, they'll latch onto those open wounds as the fish is stressed. And I didn't at the time have any parasites, but in saying that, the fish were too far gone. Their skin had almost all come off, and they were looking really horrible. So in itself, I ended up euthanizing those fish, and they were dispatched. Now, this disease only really affects clownfish. Now, you'd think, okay, I'm sweet. Usually most tanks have 2 clowns. If your 2 clowns die, it's sad, but you're not really at any other risk of spreading to any other fish. In my case, I was really stressing, because for you guys that don't know, I do have another 2 clowns. I've got my male over there, which you can see in my anemone, and then my big girl over here. I did have 4 clowns, and I was extremely stressed about what I can do to combat this issue and not let it spread to these clowns. So I was dosing Medic in the meantime, which was keeping white spot down, and Medic does claim to kill other parasites and fungal issues, but I wasn't convinced that it was going to do the trick, as it didn't for those clowns. Now, I don't believe I made a hasty decision by killing them. It sounds bad using the words killed them. I humanely euthanized them, and I do believe it was not only in the best interest of the fish, but my whole tank as well, as other fish can contract that disease and it will end up killing them, and it's definitely not something that you want in your tank. So although sad, I knew it was the right thing to do. So I ended up going and purchasing something that not many people get for their tank straight away, but a UV sterilizer. Now, sorry about the angles with this, but you can see my UV sterilizer here. It's basically a large black tube with 2 tubes coming out the ends of it. And these tubes go over and into my tank. You can see those 2 tubes there, going into my sump, and the water's basically circulating. Now, with taking the torch away and showing you there, you can see some light coming down at the bottom, and that's the UV tube. Now, all that tube does is it's in its name, it's a UV sterilizer, so it sterilizes the parasites / infections or pathogens or viruses in your tank, and it basically kills them. Now, that's one of the most crucial parts of a reef system, or any tank, is not getting parasites and not killing your fish. So a UV sterilizer, now that I think about it, probably should have been something I got a lot earlier, but money can sometimes play a part in that, which it did, because they are quite costly sometimes, and especially for good ones, and it's something you put off. Now, I did put that off, and I do believe I paid the consequence for that. I lost 3 fish. I really don't categorize my tang dying as the same issue, but I do believe it could have contributed to its stress factor and maybe killed it. So I am categorizing basically all those 3 fish dying to Brook Lanella. So that's what this is. So this video is basically, it's an update, but it's also an update on the fish and how I've taken care of it. Sorry, I got a bit tongue-tied. So I got the UV sterilizer down there, and I'm not sure if it's coincidence or something's gone right, but I do seem to have eradicated that disease from my tank. Now, it's not something you can completely get rid of. It's almost always going to be there, but it's something that can come back and always should be in the back of your mind. It could be there. Now, with that, I am supplementing with garlic. A lot of people do rave about garlic, and I'll see if I can actually show you here. You can see there, it's called BioViv garlic. Place it down. Really good. Sorry about the light. Really good. It's basically a bottle. Show that with like a pipette or a pipette. That's what I call it on the end of it. that basically you squeeze the garlic in. It's 99% sure pure squeezed garlic, and you supplement their food with that. And a combination of a healthy tank with good water, the UV sterilizer, and of course me supplementing feeding with garlic, I've managed to kill or partly get rid of that disease. So after a couple of days of sulking, I got back into the groove, managed to get my tank on track, managed to sort out my calcium and alkalinity issues, and I went to an aquarium shop and I thought I'll boost my spirits and get me some fish, or at least a fish and a piece of coral. And I did end up doing that. I did get this blue tang, which you can see swimming around the tank, and he is quite happy. He's a medium-sized blue tang. He's definitely not large and he's definitely not small. He's one of, I dare say, a good medium-sized fish. He is slightly bigger than my Eblei mimic tang and is showing signs of aggression, but it's always almost going to happen in a tank with two tangs, and I wasn't expecting there not to be, but it's certainly not bad. And with that purchase, I ended up buying a green staghorn coral, which you can see right here. It's a beautiful, lovely fluorescent green and absolutely pops under the blue light. My third purchase for that afternoon was a magnet cleaner. So this magnet cleaner, as you can see, is absolutely fabulous. It is a mag float. So if I take you around the back, you can see it's a mag float, scrape, and it has the blade on it. Now this blade, I never really understood the value of having a blade on the magnet cleaner, but especially having a tank this size, having a blade is almost the best thing you can ask for. The reason being is that, one, this tank, although I am a very tall person, I'm 6'1", I still can't really touch the bottom of my glass, and that does house a lot of issues come cleaning time. So you can see right at the back, if I zoom in slightly, there's slightly bits of algae, and even with the blade it's a little bit hard to clean because I have my Jubeo pumps positioned over there. Now that blade gets in really every nook and cranny and cleans it out perfectly. It's got the blade, which you can see down there, and then a foam or like a coarse pad that scrubs the glass. So you're hitting it from two sides, which is really good. You can also see my mandarin, which is doing great. So I thought I might as well go over the fish list or stock list of what my tank is, the corals I have in it. I'll just do a full tank shot, and then I'll go over the individual corals and fish when I get to it. So fish list, I have my blue tang, which you can see, my Eblei tang, which you can see there. I have a Melanaris wrasse, which is the blue guy. I have a Coris wrasse, which is the red fella going about. I have a bicolor blenny, two clowns, and a mandarin. Now that stock list is final for now. I've been looking at getting a leopard wrasse, but I've just been hunting down, seeing if I can find the right one. Now, fish that will get very large, like 3 of my fish will, my Coris wrasse, which you can see the red fellow, my tangs, will mostly get to a foot. Now, that's maximum level, and it's not often seen in captivity, that size, but it's there. It is their wild size, and I've definitely seen some large fish of their species. So it's definitely not out of the books, but I am hoping that they will grow slowly and happily in this tank. And if worse comes to worse, I can either give them away, sell them, or inevitably I'll most likely be getting a bigger tank. So I'll show some close-ups of them all. Show you my Coris wrasse, which you can see now. Lovely fish, doing great. Had some issues with him on his tail, but they're all gone. Both of my tangs, which you can see. both of my tangs, one of my female clowns, my other male clown, my blenny, and a wrasse. Now, the corals I have in my tank are mostly, they're all the same other than that one. So if you look at my other videos, you can go through the list. I've got my euphyllias over here, a couple of my torches, my zoanthids, and then mostly my stony coral. Now, I'll do another video on the sump and individual parts of my system so everyone can get a good idea as to what I'm doing and how I'm running stuff. So everyone can either set up what they want or have inspiration as I've gotten from many other YouTubers in that sense. So that's all I'd like to cover in this video. Leave a comment in the comment section below, and if you want to contact me or ask me any questions, you can either leave a comment, but if you want to contact me directly, you can go on my Facebook page at Jonathan JD, and that will be contacting directly to me. It's not a page or anything, it's my personal profile, so you can ask me anything and I will reply if it is a suitable question, no silly ones. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.